form an organization. It needs to form an organization. Now, without forming an organization, it is difficult for any business entity to achieve its goals and objectives. So, why is organization important? Organization is important because it optimizes the use of resources. See, one thing that as students of management, as students of organization theory and organization behavior, one thing that you should understand is resources are limited. Right? No organization has unlimited access to resources. Even a very big organization like the Reliance group of companies or Infosys or TCS, nobody has unlimited access to resources. Everybody resources are limited, and only that organization which makes optimum use of these resources, optimum use in sense make getting the maximum benefit out of these resources. So only the organization which makes optimum use of these resources is the one which will achieve its goals or objectives. So the first important aspect of an organization is it helps in the optimum utilization of resources. It makes administration easier. See what is happening in an organization. We are deciding who is to do what, right? Whose responsibility is what, and things like that, right? Now, this is nothing but administration. So if an organization is there, it becomes easier. Work becomes easier, right? And the next one is an organization improves business stability. If there is a business entity, a business unit which is just dependent on 1, 2, or 3 people, and beyond that nobody knows anything, then where is the question of stability? Take for example, there is one person who is doing this particular job today. Tomorrow that person cannot turn up. Then what happens? There is no continuity. There is no flow of work. Whereas what happens in an organization, each work is designated to somebody. Sometimes there are a group of people. There is a kind of a succession that is, in case one person does not do it, the next person would take it up. So therefore, an organization provides business stability, right? And then an organization promotes the specialization of individuals. We will discuss this again many times in today's class. Work specialization or division of labor or division of work, which means nothing but each person is allocated a task, a job, a piece of work, and that person specializes in doing it. Now, there are a lot of benefits, associated with work specialization. It improves efficiency. It improves, economic utilization of resources. So all that is possible through organization. And an organization also facilitates growth and development in an organization, right? Only when things are organized, only when work is properly distributed, allocated, only when resources are being effectively utilized, growth and development is possible. And then organization over a period of time develops its own culture, right? So that is what organization culture is all about. So organization culture is nothing but set of, assumptions, beliefs, feelings, or norms that members of an organization share amongst themselves. These are not written anywhere. They are unwritten rules, unwritten assumptions. But they have a very profound impact on the way people behave in an organization, the way people think and work in an organization. The work attitudes of its employees are also to a great extent depending on the culture of its employees. Right? Just a second. Let me move to the next slide. What are the characteristics of organizations? Right? Let us try to understand what are those features that you would see in most organizations, or you should see in most organizations. That is what most organizations should be having. The first one is clear purpose and goals. See, when we were discussing the definition of organization itself, I told you organization is a group or collection of individuals who come together in order to achieve a common goal or a common objective. Right. Now, just having a common goal or a common object is not enough. These goals and objectives should also be clear. Right? These goals and objectives should be clear. Uh, what happens if the goals and objectives are not clear? Right? Uh, when people when an organization does not have a specific goal or a purpose, that that clarity, that specificity cannot be transferred to its employees. And when employees are not very clear, not very sure about what they are working for, what is their goal, what is the benchmark, what are those behaviors for which they would be rewarded, then all their effort would go directionless. Right? All the effort would be directionless. Right? So that is the first thing, characteristics of a modern organization. It should have clear purpose and clear goals. Goals can be achieved only when they are clear and specific. Right? So there is an acronym which is used. How should goals be? Goals should be SMART. SMART means what? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. Right. Then the next one is division of work. Yes, I told you we will talk about division of work, division of labor, work specialization many times in today's session, again and again. So what happens in organizations is work is divided. Each each person, each group, each team, or each department is allocated a work, and only that person, that group, that team, or that department does the work. Let me give you a very simple example. Take, for example, manufacturing of a table is involved. So in division, so there is one scenario which could be, there are a group of people who are involved in preparing the table, right from cutting the wood to the final stage. All three or four of them are sitting together working on it. That is one scenario. The other scenario could be one person is told, see, it is your responsibility to cut the wood. The other person is told it is your responsibility to join the wood. Join those pieces like the planks, the legs, and all that. The third person is told that it is your responsibility to paint the table once all those things are cut and joined. This is division of work. This is a very overly simplistic example, but that is what happens in organizations also. See, when you see departments, HR department, finance department, marketing department, what is that? That is nothing but division. That means all HR related activities should be taken up by HR department only. All marketing related activities would be taken up by marketing department. There are a lot of benefits. One thing is it will lead to specialization. People over a period of time, when they keep doing the same job, they become experts in it. They become specialists in it. Right? Apart from that, see, there is clarity of who is to do what. So whenever a work comes up, there would not be a discussion and a question answer session as to who will do this. No, it is to do if that work is related to marketing, that department will take it up. If that work is related to finance, that department will take it. Right? So that is one characteristic of a modern organization. The next one is formalized processes and procedures. See, all modern organizations, all the processes and procedures are formalized. What do we mean when we say formalized? Formalized means when it is based on certain rules, when it is based on certain established procedures. See, take for example, I am a sole proprietor, right? If I am a sole proprietor, I am the one doing everything. I don't have people, I have not hired people to do anything. I will work in whichever way I want. Take, for example, one day I will start my work at 9 o'clock in the morning. The next day I will start at 11 o'clock in the morning. Maybe the next day I would start my work after having my lunch at 2 p.m. Right? Or take, for example, once, again, if we take the example of making a table, one day I might use one kind of saw to cut the wood, the other day I might use another kind of saw to cut the wood. But when we talk about organizations, we're talking about group of people. When we're looking at groups of people who have come together and work, and they have to work together. So when you have groups of people who are coming and working together, each one, if they're working according to their whims and fancies, work cannot progress. So therefore, organizations, all the processes and procedures in an organization should be formalized. They should be proper, well laid down rules and procedures for it. The next one is resource management. All modern organizations have to manage their resources very, very efficiently, very very economically. The resources needs to be managed. Why? Because resources are limited, resources are scarce, and only those organizations which can manage their resources effectively, only such organizations can survive in today's competitive market. Then accountability and responsibility. Each and every individual in an organization would be given some responsibility. That team or the department would also be made accountable for something else, that is answerable for something else, right? So these are the characteristics of modern organizations. The next one is coordination, right? So what is meant by coordination? There are different teams in an organization, there are different people in an organization, there are different departments. All of them are working, but all of their work should be synchronized. All their work should be synchronized in such a manner that all these bits and pieces of work, when it is put together, would help the organization to achieve its final goal or objective. So that is what is coordinated. There should be mechanisms, there should be systems in an organization which would make sure that the work is coordinated, that communication is properly maintained. All these things are taken care of. Common objectives, I told you, that is a crux of an organization. All the members in an organization have a common objective or a goal. Only then we call it as an organization. If there are 10 people sitting under one roof, but with each one of them has their own objectives, own goals, then those 10 people do not constitute an organization. Cooperative relationships, right? So all people working in an organization need to cooperate with one another. This will help the organization achieve its goals, as well as the individuals also achieve their goals. See, what is it? If you say what is the goal of any organization? The goal of any organization is profit maximization, wealth maximization. At the same time, individuals working in the organization also have certain goals, certain objectives, right? What would take, for example, what would be the goal of one employee working in the organization? Better pay, growth in the organization, good learning opportunities, good benefits. These could be the different goals or objectives. So if these employees, all of them come together and make sure that the organization achieves its objectives, the individual goals and objectives of the employees also can be achieved. See, if the organization is not making profits, can the employees be paid well? Can they get their bonus or whatever it is? That is not possible. And the last characteristic of modern organizations, authority responsibility relationships are well defined. There is an established organizational structure and hierarchy. So, who is to do what? Who is responsible for what? Who will report to whom? Right? That is known as organizational hierarchy. So, take for example, there is a manager and there would be 2 or 3 assistant managers working under him, and each assistant manager will take care of 4 or 5 management trainees. So, this is the organizational hierarchy. And in modern organizations, all of them are very clearly established. Right? Now, now we are going to look at types of organizations. Okay? Types of organizations. Organizations are classified uh, based on different parameters. As far as your syllabus is concerned, here we are looking at organizations classification based on the 3 parameters. The first one that we are looking at is types of organizations based on functions. All right. So the first type of organization is called as economic or production organization. Economic or production organization. So what are these economic or production organizations? Now these organizations are basically concerned with manufacturing of goods or one second, just a second. Yeah. These organizations are concerned with manufacturing of goods, manufacturing or things. For example, a mobile phone that you use, the company which manufactures this mobile phone is called as economic or production organization. A soap, a toothpaste, right? Anything, any product that you see around us, any all All these are known as uh, all the organizations producing these are known as economic or production organizations. Now, next, coming to political organizations. See, though the word political is used here, it does not mean or it does not refer to any political parties as such, right? So, what exactly are political organizations? Political organizations are those organizations that are concerned with the attainment of political goals, right? What they try to do is they try to generate and allocate power within the society, and they also ensure or they also try to make sure that peace and stability is maintained in the society. Now, what are examples of political organizations? Legislature, government departments. These are all examples of political organizations. Next, coming to integrative organizations. What are integrative organizations? These integrative organizations, what they try to do is they try to settle conflicts. They try to integrate and coordinate various segments of the society to work together. Okay, they provide stability in the society. Uh, Such kind of organizations are known as integrative organizations. So, what could be examples of integrative organizations? Courts, judicial courts, police department, uh, uh, social welfare, all these are examples of integrative organizations. The last one is pattern maintenance organizations. What are these pattern maintenance organizations? These organizations are concerned with the uh, societal continuity, right? And their focus is on long term issues. What are long term issues? Long term issues such as values in the society, knowledge, culture, right? And some of the examples of pattern maintenance organizations are educational institutions, cultural organizations, religious organizations. These are all examples of pattern maintenance organizations, right? So, as students of MCOM or MBA or BCom or BBA, mostly you would be studying the first one, economic or production organizations, right? Political organizations mostly fall under government sector. Integrative organizations also mostly fall under government organizations. Yeah, pattern and maintenance, okay, educational institutions, culture, religious. So again, commerce or business management students don't have a great role to play there, right? Then another, this is the second classification of organizations. Here the classification is based on who's the beneficiary, based on the beneficiary, right? So the first one is mutual benefit association. So what is this mutual benefit association? Here, the primary beneficiaries are the members themselves, right? So the members themselves are the beneficiaries. So the organization is there established and working for the benefit of the members themselves. So, like, political parties, trade unions, or, professional associations. Like, you could have an association of lawyers, association of advocates, association of chartered accountants, or some religious bodies. They're all religious bodies which are established to, promote their own interests. They're all called as mutual benefit association. Coming to the next one, business concerns. Business concerns are also known as business organization. So, what happens in this type of organizations is the owner of the concern, the owner of the organization, they are the prime beneficiaries of the organization. They are the most important beneficiaries of the organization. So, they are mostly concerned about what is the return on investment that they are going to get, and the nature of the output of the organization is secondary to them. What is primary to them is what is the return on investment that they're going to get. So the main concern uh, in these business concerns or business organizations, whatever they are called as, is that of operating efficiently. How to operate efficiently in order to make maximum profit at minimum cost. That is their primary motive: maximum profit, minimum cost. So, in order to survive, Now, these organizations have to compete with the other organizations. So, all the organizations that I told you, government organizations, non-government organizations, like for example, I told you in the beginning of the class, Infosys, TCS, Wipro, TSRTC, Indian Railways, whatever. See, they all have their primary motive is to maximize their profits. And in order to maximize their profit, they might have to compete with others. So they're all examples of business organizations or business concerns. See, whereas in mutual benefit association, there is no question of competition as such, right? People have formed a group for their own benefits, their own to serve their own interests. There is no question of competition there. Next, coming to service organizations. Now, what happens in service organization is the clients who are served, right? They are the primary beneficiaries. They are the most important beneficiaries. So, hospitals, educational institutions, social work agencies, um, legal help agencies, these are all examples of service organizations, right? And the clients who are supposed to be the primary beneficiaries, uh, they are not the ones who are actually controlling these organizations. They have no control over these organizations. So controlling the organization, somebody else is doing. Prime beneficiaries are somebody else. Next, coming to Commonwealth organization. Now, in this type of organization, the public at large, the general public, uh, that is its primary beneficiary. Like, for example, post office, police service, fire departments, military service. They're all examples of Commonwealth organizations, right? So they mostly perform protective services, or uh, this their responsibility is administrative services, right? So this is the second type of classification. The third type of classification, and the one that is most oftenly seen in organization, is a classification based on, one second, classification based on formality, whether it is a formal organization or an informal organization. So, what do you mean by a formal organization and what do you mean by an informal organization? Let us first try to understand a few characteristics of formal organizations. So, a formal organization has a clearly defined structure of activities, which is determined by the top management. So, what is to be done? What activities are to be taken up? What is the structure of these activities? All that is decided by the top management. And such kind of organizations, they are relatively stable. And these organizations, again, are based on the principle of division of labor, division of work, or specialization, whatever we have already discussed. Okay, and here the jobs have to be performed, and not according to individuals who are to perform the job. So that means there is a common procedure, and everybody has to follow the same procedure, right? Formal organizations are extremely impersonal. Okay, formal organizations are extremely impersonal. Now, coming to the kind of authority and responsibility relationships, right? So, the authority and responsibility relationships created by the organization structure, uh, whatever they are there, they have to be accepted and recognized by everyone. They cannot be questioned. So, like, why is he my boss? Why should I report to him? Why should I submit to him? No, you cannot question that. If you are a part of a formal organization, you have to respect and
इसमें
accept.
वीडियो कैसे ऑन करते हैं
I think,
इस पे भी वीडियो
Afri, you have to mute yourself. Afri, mute yourself. Okay. Okay, right, right. So coming to types of organizations based on formality, right? And you can also switch off your video. It is not necessary for you to keep your video on. If you don't want, you can switch off your video also. Right. Okay. So these are some of the characteristics of formal organizations that I was talking about. Right. Um, so I was telling you that formal organizations, uh, there is lot of there are a lot of rules and procedures that have to be followed. There is nothing impersonal in a formal organization, and no emotional aspect is taken into consideration. And all these responsibility and authority relationships that have been created, they have to be honored by one and all. Right? Now, coming to informal organizations. Now, what happens in informal organizations is over a period of time, the unwritten laws, the beliefs uh, uh, regarding what is desirable, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, all these come into picture, right? So, what people do is over a period of time is they think and act like in groups, and they try to alter their behavior according to the group to which they are, right? Everything here is informal, like the leadership is informal, uh, the hierarchy structures are informal, all these things are informal, right? Now, okay, so you understood what a formal and an informal organization is. But one interesting thing that you would know is every organization has both formal as well as informal aspects to it. There cannot be an organization which only has the formal component to it without the informal component. That is not possible, right? Uh, Now, what is the role? Though I told you that every organization also has informal component to it, does it mean that informal component is not needed? No. Both formal as well as informal components of an organization have their own roles to play. Formal organization helps in accomplishment of the goals, objectives, helps in completion of the task on time and things like that. What does informal organization do? Informal organization fulfills and satisfies the social needs of individuals, right? What are social needs of individuals? Social needs of individuals are the need to talk to somebody, the need to share their views and opinions, the need to be a part of a group, the need to be accepted in a group. All these are social needs. And these needs are also important. If these needs are not fulfilled, a person working in an organization becomes a very frustrated individual, right? And let me tell you one thing: happy employees are productive employees. So if your employees are unhappy, frustrated, unhappy about something, you can never expect productivity, efficiency from them, right? So both formal as well as informal organizations are very important. Okay. The next thing uh, that we would discuss is about the classical organization theory. See, there are a number of theories that we would discuss in today's class. The first theory that we're going to talk about is the classical organization theory. Classical organization theory is the oldest organization theory that you would see. All the others, right? Um, uh, 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 all the other theories are actually, those theories which have arisen because of some inefficiencies in this, or there was a person who had a different perspective to things. So that is how he came up with some other theory. But classical organization theory is the oldest one, the first one, right? What is the fundamental, the first and the foremost aspect of classical organization theory, right? Uh, this is a theory which emphasizes more on the organization than on the employees. So the primary focus of a classical organization theory is the organization. And what about the employees? Classical organization theory looks at employees as mere components or mere parts of an organization. So what is important? Organization is important. Employees are secondary. So employees are, what is the role of employees in a classical organization theory? Employees are just a means of production. So, an organization requires different resources: machinery, money, raw material, men. So, classical organization theory treats humans also as the rest of the resources. Just as we procure machines, just as we procure raw materials, we also have humans. So, they are also just a means of production. Now, looking at the principles, let us look at some of the principles of, just a second. I think you're not able to see the screen. Let me just once. Yeah. Okay. Let us look at some of the principles of classical organization theory. Right. The first one is division of labor. Right. I told you division of labor. We are going to talk about division of labor so many times. Right. So whenever an organization divides its work and allocates it to different individuals or different teams, that is known as division of labor, division of work, and specialization, right? And in order to obtain clear specialization, so that the organization improve its performance, then it is mandatory that organization must divide its work, right? So every task, every work needs to be divided into bits and pieces which are meaningful, which are relevant, which are complete. And these bits and pieces of tasks should be given to different people. That is known as division of labor. Right? The next one is departmentalization. Right? What do you mean by departmentalization? See, the different in every organization, different departments must be created for different activities and different jobs. Now, what it would do, it would allow the organization to minimize its cost and facilitate administrative control. Right? Having departments, having various departments would help an organization to minimize its costs and make administrative control easier. Right? The company needs to organize into divisions, its different tasks and jobs. Now, what this enables is, this enables the expenditure to be reduced, and also, see, when we talk about administrative control is better facilitated only when there are departments and only when these various departments are allocated specific tasks and jobs, right? So that is what is meant by departmentalization. Next, coming to coordination, right? Now, coordination refers to harmony. Coordination refers to harmony among the various diverse functions that happen in an organization. So it should be ensured by every organization that there is harmony among the various diverse functions. What it would do is it would provide unity of actions, right? Unity of actions. That means everybody is working towards one common goal, one common objective. And it also allows the arrangement of group efforts in an orderly and systematic manner. See, if you look at large organizations, they could have 100 employees, 200 employees, 1 lakh employees, 1,000 employees. All of them are working, but it is necessary to make sure that all of them are working in such a way that there is no duplication of work, there is no duplication of effort, there is no missing of tasks or activities also. That is the importance of coordination, right? So now what any organization must do is, the organization must guarantee peace between the various functions. So what this would allow is, this would allow the collective effort to be organized in such an orderly way that, unity of action that is possible when serving a common goal. Right? Next, coming to scalar and functional processes. Right? So, the serial chain of superior and subordinate relationships that you see in organizations from the top of the organization to the bottom of the organization. That is known as scalar chain. So, take for example, there is one manager. That manager has two assistant managers working under him, and these assistant managers have junior managers working under him, and each junior manager has three management trainees working under him. So that chain, that chain of superior subordinate relationship of manager, assistant manager, junior manager, and management training, that is known as scalar chain. Right? Now, what the scalar chain does is it helps in the facilitation of the delegation of authority. Communication becomes easier. There is a possibility to give feedback and also take remedial action because of the existence of a scalar chain. Now, just a second. The scalar chain, it also helps in the facilitation of the delegation of authority, communication, feedback, remedial action. All that is possible only when there is a scalar chain. See, I am working in an organization. I have a problem. Whom do I go and share it to? I would share it to somebody above me. So, if there is a scalar chain, there is a problem. There is a scope for feedback, right? And it also encourages delegation, right? It also encourages decision making. All these things are possible through scalar chains. Next, coming to structure. So, what is structure? Structure is a conceptual relationship in an organization between the various functions, right? So, an organization has 10 different departments. Each department has one department head, and so many people working under him. What is that? That is nothing but structure, right? For efficient goal achievement, all the functions are achieved, organized in a form of a structure, right? In an organization, the functions constitute the structure of the organization. These functions are then arranged in order to accomplish the effective objectives, right? The last point is span of control. What do you mean by span of control? Span of control is also known as span of supervision or span of management also. What does it mean? It means, or it refers to the total number of subordinates that can be effectively supervised by a manager, right? So how many subordinates can one manager supervise? That is known as span of control. So take for example, I am a team leader and I have 10 people in my team. So my span of control is 10. Now there is another team leader. That team leader has 20 people working in his team. So his span of control is 20, right? Span of control is an important determinant as far as the structure of the organization is concerned. Whether an organization would have a tall structure or a flat structure, that is determined by the span of control. The span of control determines that. So, and if an organization has a wider span of control, then the organizational structure tends to be flatter. If an organization has a narrow span of control, then the structure tends to be tall. So I told you an example. I have 10 members in my team. X has 20 members in his team. So every team leader has 20 members there. Whereas here in this organization, every team leader has 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, not more than 10. So here, this organizational structure would be tall. There, the organizational structure would be flat. Right? So these are the principles of classical organizational theory. Next, that is one theory that we have to discuss about. The next theory that we need to discuss about is bureaucracy theory. Right? So bureaucracy theory was actually proposed by Max Weber. Max Weber is a German sociologist and an author, right? So his theory or uh, his contribution to the field of organization theory is known as the bureaucracy theory. Now, what he did is according to him, an organization must have a defined hierarchical structure, clear rules, regulations, clear line of authority, right? All these features put together are known as bureaucratic structures, right? So, Weber has actually laid down the following characteristics, right? So, what are those characteristics? Specialization of labor. That means tasks should be categorized. Tasks should be divided based on functionality, based on specialization. That means each person would be doing a task or a job specific to that person. Okay? Then a formal set of rules and regulations. There should be well established rules and regulations. For I am an employee working in an organization. I want to apply leave. There should be a well established rule policy for this. So I want to avail leave. What is the policy? I get that should be there. It should not be like I want to avail leave. Then the boss decides something. Then somebody else goes and wants to avail leave. Then the boss will sit and think of some other rule. This is not bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is there are rules and regulations which are well established, which are laid down, and which are universally applicable to everybody. It doesn't change from person to person as such. Right? The next one is well-defined hierarchy within the organization. Well-defined hierarchy within the organization. Hierarchy is nothing but, like I told you, the series, the chain of superior subordinate relationships. That is known as hierarchy. Right? Next one is impersonality in the application of rules. That means, see, what bureaucratic organizations are known for is they are known for impersonality as far as implementation of rules and regulations are concerned. So, whatever is the rule, that rule is applicable to each and every person in the organization. There is no exception, and at each and every time. So today this rule is applicable. That rule would be applicable forever. It will not change from one time to another time or from one person to another person. That is known as impersonality in the application of rules. So based on this, what can we say in the words? What can we understand bureaucracy in the words of Max Weber? Max Weber says bureaucracy is an organizational structure that is characterized by many laws. So here people are not deciding as and when what they want to do. No, there are laws. So characterized by many laws, standardized procedure. That means there is a standard fixed procedure which doesn't change as and when. Right? Standardized procedures, requirements, the meticulous division of labor, responsibility, clear hierarchies. What do you mean by clear hierarchy? Who is reporting to whom? Who is my boss? Who is my subordinate? If I have to do this, whose permission should I take? These are all clearly established. Right? And professional interactions between employees that are almost impersonal, right? So all interactions between employees should be completely impersonal. They should only be professional interactions between the employees. That is according to Max Weber what bureaucracy is. So if you have to look at the 6 major principles of bureaucratic form as what are they? The first one would be a formal hierarchical structure. So what happens in a bureaucratic organization is each level controls the level below it, right? That is what is a hierarchical structure. And also the level above it controls it. So A controls B, B controls C. Now a formal hierarchy is very essential in organization because this is the basis of central planning and centralized decision making. The next one is rules-based management. So everything, all the decisions in bureaucratic organizations are taken based on established rules, right? So what happens here? Anything is to be done. People don't have to sit and discuss and decide. They just have to refer to the rules, and whatever are the rules, they just have to implement that. And as you know, rules are always made by the higher levels, higher hierarchical levels in an organization. So the lower levels of the management, lower levels in the hierarchical structure, what they are doing most of the time is they are implementing the rules that are made by the top management. Next, coming to functional specialty organization. Here specialists, they do all the work. And also what the organization does is it divides the employees into different units based on the type of work that they do or based on the skills that they possess. Coming to the fourth one, the fourth major principle of bureaucratic structure is impersonality. Now, one very good aspect about impersonality is all employees being treated equally, right? So we are not, like I told you, rules, leaves are established. So if A wants to avail leave, B wants to avail leave, or C wants to avail leave, the rule will be same for everybody. It is not like if is related to the boss, or B is related to the boss, or C is related to some political leader. So we will make changes. No, bureaucratic organizations do not permit them. It says whoever you could be, but you will only get these many days of leave, and these would be the conditions, right? And bureaucratic organizations, they also treat all customers equally, and they do not allow any individual differences to influence them. The last principle of bureaucratic organization, which is an extremely important principle, is employment based on technical qualifications. So here, what Max Weber says is selection of employees or promotion of employees should only be done on the basis of technical qualifications, on the basis of skills, right? So if we are hiring a person, if we are appointing a person, we should be appointing that person only because of the skills that he or she possesses, right? Uh, Beyond that, there should not be any other parameter in appointing a person. No references, no recommendations, nothing. Similarly, for selection also, it should be the same thing, right? Selection also, it should be the same thing. Whether the person is suitable, whether the person has the required qualifications, whether the person has the required skills or not. That's it. We have to just look at that and do it. Okay. So when I was discussing all these principles and features of bureaucratic theory, I'm sure you must have been impressed by certain things. Like, when we said all employees are treated equally, and appointments are made only based on merit. Yes, these are all good things of bureaucratic theory. But there are also certain criticisms. Bureaucratic theory is also criticized on certain aspects, on certain parameters. Why is it criticized for rules, rigid rules, inflexible rules? And sometimes what happens in some organizations is the emphasis is more on rules and regulations than the people. See, rules and regulations are made for smooth functioning, not for rules and regulations are not important. Smooth function is important, people are important. But the emphasis shifts from people to rules and regulations. So that is one criticism. And informal groups or informal organizations do not get any recognition in a bureaucratic structure. Whereas, like I told you, informal organization satisfies the social needs of individuals. They play a huge role in contemporary businesses. But bureaucratic structure does not recognize it at all. And again, bureaucratic organizations involve a lot of paperwork, lots and lots of paperwork, because for everything there are rules and there are regulations. Nothing can be done in an impromptu manner. And what these rules and regulations do is they also result in unnecessary delay in the decision making process. That is also one thing. So mostly in government organizations, you see bureaucratic structures, or in other words, large organizations. Most of the government organizations are large organizations. So all large organizations, you see bureaucratic structure being followed, right? And one more thing is, see, whenever one aspect that I told you is, whenever we are hiring people or whenever we are promoting them, we should only look at their qualification, their skills, and all those things. But the criticism against this is, okay, you're looking at qualifications and skills, but what about their commitment? What about their dedication towards the organization? That is completely ignored by bureaucratic structure, right? So these are some of the criticisms that you see in bureaucratic structure. The next theory, right? See, we have seen two so far. One was the classical theory, then we've seen the bureaucratic theory. The third one is scientific management theory. Scientific management theory is also known as Taylorism. Why is it known as Taylorism? Because it was proposed. The concept of scientific management was initially proposed by F.W. Taylor, right? F.W. Taylor. So therefore, it is also known as Taylorism. Now, what are those unique features of scientific management? Now, this person, F.W. Taylor, was a French mining engineer. Based on his work in different mines and all where he worked, what he noticed is people were working in a very, very haphazard, random manner. Even large organizations also, there were no established rules, no established systems or patterns. People were just working in a very, very haphazard manner. So he said that is a wrong approach to work. Whenever you are working, the work should be accomplished on a scientific basis. That means whatever we are doing, there should be a reason, there should be a logic behind it, right? So it cannot be like, okay, we will start the work at 8 o'clock because I feel 8 o'clock is a good or is an auspicious time. Or some other member might say, no, 9 o'clock is an auspicious time, so we have to start at 9. No, when to start, we are not going to depend that decision on auspicious time. We are only going to depend that on scientific basis, right? So that is the first principle of scientific management. Choose methods based on science. In fact, F.W. Taylor, before he proposed the scientific management and principles of scientific management, he did extensive research on even the tools, the equipment that were used by workers. What he realized is, see, he saw workers in a mine transferring coal from one place to another place, and each worker was given one shovel. Shovel is like, that spade kind of a thing which is used to transfer coal from one place to another place. He saw all the workers were given a shovel of the same size. Whereas he realized, as a part of his studies, he said the size of the shovel should depend on the size of the individual also. Like, for example, if a person is of this height, he can pick up coal weight of this. Whereas a person is of a lesser height, the quantity of coal that he can pick up should be less. So what he did is, he designed the size of the shovel based on the height and the weight of the individual. So see, we might say, what is there in a shovel? If any person can just pick up as much of coal as he can. But no, F.W. Taylor said, no, everything should be done based on a scientific manner. In fact, after he made changes like this, that is, changing the size of the shovel based on the height and the weight of the individuals, productivity increased to a great extent, right? So that is the first one. You have to choose methods based on science. Next one is, you assign workers to tasks according to their natural skill set, right? So whatever workers are good at, whichever skills the workers are good at, you have to assign works to them based on their own skill sets. So it is important for managers, for team leaders, for supervisors to know their workers, to know their members, discover what their capabilities are, understand what their capabilities are, and then give them work based on those capabilities, right? So that is the second one. Right? And the third one is monitoring the performance of the workers, right? So it is very important that, workers One second. Yeah. Um, Work is monitored at regular intervals, right? So you have to observe what the workers are doing, right? And so if that monitoring is done, so any problems are there, those problems can be quickly addressed. So some workers are not good at what they are doing, right? So it is then the workers have to, the managers have to step in. They have to help the workers. They have to help them do it in a better manner. And the last one is divide workload appropriately between the managers and the workers. Or in other words, we can say that, there should be proper collaboration. There should be proper collaboration between the workers and the managers. See, usually, workers and managers look at themselves as enemies. Workers see that, these managers are there only to trouble us, only to make us work more. Or managers might feel that, these workers are lazy people, they don't do anything. But scientific management theory says, see, workers and managers should collaborate together and work as a team. They should work in harmony. And it is the responsibility of the management to create such kind of a healthy environment. If this healthy environment is there, what happens? Workers will trust the management. Workers will trust the organization. Right? So there should be a lot of clear communication. Team spirit should be there in the organization. So these are the principles of scientific management. Ultimately, what does the scientific management aim at, or what does scientific management want to achieve? Productivity, right? Uh, Improved productivity is one main objective. And how is that possible? That is possible by standardizing the tools to achieve a higher production rate, right? And quality should be ensured, ensuring quality that is consistent in products through research and quality control. Then introducing cost control techniques. That primary objective of scientific management is to make sure that a lot of cost control techniques are introduced in the organization so that the cost of production is minimized. And ultimately, the consumers, the customers, they should get a regular supply of good quality goods at an affordable price. These are the various objectives of scientific management, right? Now, coming to the administrative theory. What is administrative theory? Right? We have seen what is scientific management. Now, next, coming to administrative theory. Now, this scientific management that was pioneered by F.W. Taylor, and that is why scientific management is also known as Taylorism. Administrative management theory, this is pioneered by Henry Fayol. Right? Now, this theory, what does it primarily involve? Just a second. Yeah. It primarily involves, creating structures, defining roles, responsibilities, and all those things. Now, this administrative theory, what it usually does is it adopts a top-down approach, right? Where there is where there is a lot of emphasis on the efficient top-level management, which acts as a foundation for the overall productivity. Right? So Henry Fayol is also known as the father of modern management. And according to him, there are 5 essential functions of managers. And those 5 essential functions are planning, organizing, commanding, coordinating, and controlling. Right? So it is used as an acronym also, POCCC. Okay. Now what Henry Fayol has done is, he was a French industrialist who, wrote a book in the early 20th century. He wrote a book called as General and Industrial Management, in which he said that there are 14 principles, key management principles, which should be followed by every organization if an organization wants to develop or succeed. Though these principles were written somewhere in the early 20th century, even till day, most of them are very, very relevant. Most of them are very, very applicable. Right? Uh, uh, any kind of organization you look at, right? It could be an MNC, it could be a small, a micro enterprise, it could be a government organization, it could be a not-for-profit institution. These principles of Henry Fayol are so universal that they can be applied anywhere, right? So let us look at each of these 14 principles one by one. Division of work, we've already discussed it so many times. Tasks should be divided and each person should be allocated a specific part of the task. That is division of work. The next one is authority and responsibility. Now, what Henry Fayol says is authority and responsibility are like two sides of a coin. Right? Authority is the power given to somebody to get the work done. Responsibility is where a person is accountable for completing a task, where a person is answerable for completing a task. What Henry Fayol says is, if you are given a responsibility to a person to accomplish a task, you should also give that person authority in order to get that work done. If you only give responsibility to a person without corresponding authority, that task cannot be completed. Similarly, if you only give authority and no responsibility, that person could become dictatorial. There could be misuse of authority. So, authority and responsibility should correspond to each other. Person with greater responsibility should be given greater authority. Person with lesser responsibility should be given lesser authority. Right? So that is the second principle of Henry Fayol. Coming to the third one, discipline. What do you mean by discipline? Henry Fayol puts a lot of emphasis on discipline. Discipline is following of rules and regulations in an organization. He says discipline cannot be compromised in an organization. Like, for example, punctuality, coming on time, or a procedure to be followed for availing leave. All these things should be clearly followed. If discipline is not followed, see, take for example, there is an organization, if punctuality, time is not very strictly looked upon, what happens? One person might come at 9 o'clock, other person might come at 10 o'clock, one person might come to work even after having lunch at home. What would happen in the process? The workflow gets affected, quality of work gets affected, and ultimately the customers get affected. And over a period of time, the profitability of the organization goes down. So therefore, rules and regulations are non-negotiable. The next one, unity of command. This is an interesting principle. Henry Fayol says, every person in an organization should receive command only from one source, one person. No person should receive instructions, orders, or commands from two different sources. That would only lead to confusion. That would only lead to problems. So take for example, I am working in a department. If I have two bosses, one boss will tell me go right, another boss will tell me to go left. Where will I go? I will neither go left nor go right. I will just sit in my place. This is the problem if unity of command is not followed. Every person should have only one boss, should only receive instructions and commands from one person or one source. That is what is meant by unity of command. Next one is unity of direction. Right? What Henry Fayol says is all the people work in an organization should have a common goal, should have a common objective. All of them should be working towards one goal and one objective. That is unity. So that means all of us are looking at one thing. That is what is meant by unity of direction. If unity of direction is not there, what happens? Different people would be working for different things. Right? See, if you look at a cricket team, right? If you look at a cricket team, if all of them are working for the team to win, then the team would win. If one person is working just to make sure that he's spending maximum time at the pitch, or one person is only focused on making his half century or his century, right? Then what happens? And there is a bowler, when he's bowling well, but when he's fielding, he's not fielding well because he does not want to strain himself. Can that kind of a team win? No. Only when all the players in the team, they're unidirectionally focused on making, see, come what may, whether I score a century or not, whether I take a wicket or not, whether I hurt myself while fielding or not. The team should win. That is how people should work. Next comes the subordination of individual interest to the general interest. See, there are two, look at those two phrases in this sentence: individual interests, general interests. See, I told you just in this unity of direction, I said all of them should work towards one goal, should work towards one objective. Okay, fine. But there could be people in the organization, these people could be having different goals, right? For example, I told you, a batsman should not think about making a century or scoring a half century. These are individual interests. So, is it wrong for a batsman to want to score a century or want to score a half century? No, it is not wrong. But what he or she needs to understand is uh, scoring a century is an individual interest. Team winning is a general interest. If your individual interest is in sync, is in accordance with the general interest, then yes, you should work for it. But if your individual interest is contradicting with the general interest, what should you do? You should suppress your individual interest and go towards the general interest. Focus on the general interest. That is what everybody should do. It is not wrong for people to have individual interests. It is not wrong for people to have personal goals and objectives. But they should make sure that their personal goals and objectives should not contradict with the overall goals and objectives of the organization. The next one is remuneration. What is remuneration? Remuneration is the salary, the monetary and non-monetary benefits that the employees get for the work that they do in the organization. Remuneration is very, very important. Remuneration, see, people have different needs. Remuneration helps people fulfill their most basic needs. Food, clothing, shelter. These are the basic needs of an individual. And how can these needs be fulfilled through food, clothing, and shelter? Money. And where do employees get their money from? It is the salary, the remuneration. Now, what Henry Fowle says is remuneration that is being paid to the employees, that should be adequate, that should be appropriate. It shouldn't be less, right? Employees should not be underpaid. What happens if employees are underpaid? They feel exploited. So, take for example, I feel I should be getting 10,000 rupees salary, but my employer is only paying me 8,000 rupees, right? So, what does it mean? It means that the employer is exploiting me. So, whenever employees get a feeling that their employer is exploiting them, their employer is not paying them according to the work that they're doing or according to the qualifications that they have, they lose interest in the work. They no longer feel committed to the organization. So remuneration is an important concept wherein every organization should pay their employees adequately, appropriately. But at the same time, remuneration cannot be more also. See, no organization can be paying its employees more than they deserve, more than what it can pay. What happens if an organization unduly keeps paying more and more salary? It affects their cost structure. The final cost of the product or the service keeps going up, which could have a final impact on the sales and thus the final profitability also. So it should be adequate, neither less nor more. So I told you there are 14 principles of Henry Fayol. These are the 7 that we discussed: division of work, authority and responsibility, discipline, unity of command, unity of direction, and all this. These are the next 7 principles: centralization, scalar chain, order, equity, stability of tenure, initiative, and esprit de corps. What is meant by centralization? See, there are some organizations where all the decisions are taken by one person or a core group of people. What would be the opposite of this? There could be an organization where decisions are taken at each and every level. So one person sitting at the top is not taking decisions. Decisions are being taken at each and every level, right? The scenario where one person sitting at the top is taking all the decisions, that is known as centralization. And when decisions are taken at each and every level, that is known as decentralization. The opposite of that: centralization, decentralization. Now, what Henry Fayol says is whether an organization should follow centralization or decentralization, that depends on the nature of the organization, the size of the organization, the nature of the work that is done in an organization, and the capabilities, the quality of the employees. All these factors have to be taken into consideration before an organization wants to follow a centralized or a decentralized structure. Now, take for example, a very large organization is there. Take for example, an organization has 10,000 employees. It has offices in 10 different cities in India. In such kind of organizations, complete centralization will not work. So, take for example, when to declare holidays. Let us take for example, right? Ugadi is a major festival in south states, whereas in northern states it is not so. So you have an office in Telangana and you also have an office in West Bengal. So if they declare Ugadi as holiday here, they have to declare Ugadi as holiday in the rest of the world, or rest of the country, which is meaningless. So what we can do? Okay, every office can only declare 5 holidays or 10 holidays or whatever it is. For which festivals to declare, each state can decide it. Okay? That would be appropriate. So what I'm trying to tell you, large organizations, complete centralization would not work. Similarly, there is an organization where employees are relatively inexperienced, fresh. You cannot follow decentralization there, because if you're saying, okay, every department, every team, you take your own decisions, no, they're not capable of taking decisions. Okay? So that is what you mean by decentralization. Coming to scalar chain, we already discussed of what is scalar chain. Is that that series of authority responsibility relationships in a hierarchy that is known as a scalar chain. So what a scalar chain tells us is, I am working in an organization. Who is my superior? Who is my subordinate? My scalar chain will help me understand that. And if a problem comes, whom should I go and report to? That understanding also I would get when I look at the scalar chain. And what Henry Fayol says is, this scalar chain should not be broken. The scalar chain should be followed. So if I have a complaint, I should only go and complain to my immediate superior, right? But then again, Henry Fayol only gives us a small disclaimer saying that in some, in some exceptional cases, the scalar chain can be broken. Otherwise, for all normal circumstances and situations, the scalar chain should always be followed. The next principle is order, right? So Henry Fayol talks about material as well as social order. So what do you mean by social order? Social order says there should be a work, there should be a task for every person, and every person should be given the right task. That means You are assigning right task to the right person. Take for example, I'm good at doing this. That kind of work only should be given to me. Y is good at doing something else. That kind of work only should be given to Y. That is known as order, social order. Coming to material order, see, in manufacturing companies, there are a lot of machines and equipment and raw material. A lot of those things are there. So material order becomes important there. So the concept of material order is there should be a place for everything and everything should be kept in its place. So Henry Fayol insists on that. Next one is equity. Equity refers to equality. Henry Fayol says there should be no favoritism, no partiality, no nepotism in an organization. All decisions should be taken purely based on merit. All benefits should be equitably given to every person in an organization. Right? That is the kind of importance that Henry Fayol places on equity or equality. Right? Because you see, what happens if there is favoritism, if there is partiality in an organization, people would lose the motivation to work. People would lose the motivation to perform. Right? That is what is meant by equity. Next, coming to stability of tenure. Tenure means a period of stay in an organization. Whether you are in the organization for 1 year, 10 years, 30 years, that is known as tenure. So what is meant by stability of tenure? Henry Fayol says it is a responsibility of each and every organization to make sure that they provide stable employment to their employees. That means employees working in an organization should not constantly be bothered about whether I will have my job or whether I will lose my job. Will I get my next salary or not? People should not constantly work under that fear. They should be guaranteed of their job. They should be, assured of their future income, future salary, and future income. See what happens if that stability is not there. People would not focus on work. People would focus on how to, what to do next. What would happen if I lose this job? Let me start a new side business, or let me start looking out for a new job. That is what would be the focus of the people. The focus of the people would not be work. If people are not focusing on work, where will, perfection come from? The next one is initiative, right? So when it comes to initiative, see, Henry Fayol says people should be encouraged to come forward, take initiative, take up responsibility, give suggestions, right? Uh, so an organization should create a structure, should create a system wherein they're encouraged to come up with new ideas, new suggestions, wherein they're encouraged to take up responsibility. See, unfortunately, many times what happens in organizations is people who take up, who have the initiative, who take up the responsibility are the ones who are penalized, punished. So I give an idea or a suggestion, everything falls onto my head. So next time what happens, I don't give any idea, I don't give any suggestions, I don't think at all. I just sit like a robo in meetings. Okay, you tell me what you want to do, I will just simply implement it and move away because I don't want any extra burden. See, what is happening here? We are killing people's interest in the work. So people should be allowed to come up with new ideas and suggestions. And similarly, sometimes when people are ready to take up a new initiative, start a new program, a new project, a new proposal, support them. Even if it goes wrong, also support them. See, if you don't, a person takes up a project, it goes wrong, you don't support that person, and instead you, taunt that person, you criticize that person in front of everybody. See, next time this person will never take another project or a proposal, that is for sure. Nobody else in the organization would also do that because you're indirectly telling others, see, tomorrow you take up some work and it doesn't work, you are also going to be penalized and punished like this. So that's the 13th principle of Henry Fayol. Coming to the last one, the 14th one, it's esprit de corps. It's a French or a Latin word, which means unity is strength. Right? Unity is strength. So Henry Fayol says all the employees in an organization should work together like one group, like one team. Only then the organization can actually succeed. Right. So this was about administrative theory and the 14 principles of Henry Fayol in the administrative theory. This is important. Um, Even from your examination point of view also, if you look at many of the previous question papers also, you would see this question being repeatedly asked as to what are the principles of management by Henry Fayol. The next approach to management is the neoclassical theory approach. Now, what is this neoclassical theory is? See, we talked about classical theory of management. In the classical theory of management, the emphasis was on organization. The emphasis was on the machines, the tools, the equipments. The emphasis was not on people. Whereas, see, it is the people who are running those machines. It is the people who are using that technology to convert your input into the final output. So neoclassical theory says people are important. Understanding their problems, their needs, their wishes. That is very, very important. So that is about the neoclassical theory. So what are some of the assumptions of neoclassical theory? That this organization is a social system. Social system means with people in it, right? And every organization has both formal as well as informal component to it. And you cannot completely eliminate the informal component. You cannot do that, right? And all people are interdependent. They need each other's support, right? And productivity does not only depend on machines or technical aspects. There are a lot of socio-psychological factors that have an impact on how people perform their work, right? And another interesting assumption of neoclassical theories, see, people don't always act rationally. In fact, see, for example, when you work hard, you know you will get good marks. Very common sense thing. I work hard, I get good marks. But how many of the students really do that? It's not that they don't know. They know, but still they don't behave. So all human behavior is not rational. Or even adults, for example. If I spend money, I won't have it. I know that. I can either spend money or save money. But there are people who want to save money but still spend money, and then they regret that they're not able to save money. So human behavior is quite irrational, right? And again, see, many a times organizational goals could conflict with individual goals. So reconciliation of these goals is very, very important. So neoclassical theory says, see, you should not just focus on organizational goals. Even individual goals are important. And these individual goals have to be reconciled with the organizational goals. Right? But the criticism against neoclassical theory is that, it does not have a unified approach. There are a lot of assumptions which are not backed by strong research. So those are some of the criticisms against neoclassical theory or neoclassical approach. And these Hawthorne experiments are like an outcome of these neoclassical approach. The Hawthorne experiments, there were 4 set of experiments: the illumination experiments, the relay assembly test room experiments, the mass interviewing program, and the bank wiring observation room experiment. These 4 experiments were conducted in order to prove that organizational productivity is not just because of physical factors, is not just because of money or other financial factors. There are a lot of other aspects which are important. Like, for example, in illumination experiments, it was proved that there is no direct link between productivity and illumination, light. So people could even work in very dark areas also. Similarly, in relay assembly test room experiments, it was found out that, if people are in a good group, in a group where there are good interpersonal relations, cordial relations, they do not look for breaks. They don't look for, regular breaks in between. They can work continuously also, provided they are in a group where the relations are very cordial and amicable. Coming to see bank wiring observation room experiment. See, we always think money is the most important factor for any individual. It is the most important deciding factor for employees. But what was observed in bank wiring observation room experiments was employees gave more importance to their to the feelings and needs of their group members rather than money. So they were given an opportunity to increase their income, to increase their incentives. However, what they did is they gave more importance to their group members. They wanted to make sure that all of them earn, that one person does not lose his job uh, because he is slightly slower than all those things. So these set of experiments prove the importance of social factor in an organization, prove the importance of the people factor in an organization, right? So with this, we will end today's uh, uh, session. Tomorrow again, same time, 10 o'clock, we will meet again. Okay?